A fast-moving winter storm is making its way toward areas farther south than the storm systems we have been tracking recently. We will first go over the timing of this event, and then we will discuss how much snow or ice your community might see from this system. After that, we will look at a time frame I am monitoring for early next week, and then we will continue to try and understand the forecast for the remainder of December. A very good Thursday morning to you. I hope you are all doing well and have had a wonderful week so far. If you are new here, please consider subscribing, and if you find this information helpful, a like is always appreciated. As always, if anyone has something I can keep in my thoughts, please feel free to share it in the comments below. Let us begin with our detailed forecast for this morning. This is the system we are watching. It is currently in progress. We have snow moving across Oklahoma and a large area of moisture. This is simply some good, old-fashioned rain down here in the deep south. We are also seeing some snow squalls out across the Northeast and New England, and we will talk about that toward the end of our video today. Some lake effect snow also continues in the Great Lakes region. Outside of that, there is not a great deal of activity to report. There is a storm system entering the Pacific Northwest, but our main focus is right here. So let us take a closer look at this developing situation. If you have been following along with the last couple of videos, I mentioned the potential for a significant accumulation zone somewhere in the panhandle of Texas and into parts of Oklahoma. And indeed, we are seeing a rather intense band of snow and sleet. If you are viewing from this area, I would be very interested to hear what you are experiencing. Please, do let me know in the comments below. It appears to be some quite heavy snow and sleet out there. I did check the real-time observations on the radar, and people are reporting both snow and sleet from this. So please let me know how much you have on the ground, if any at all. The radar is showing some precipitation starting to move into northern Arkansas and the southwestern areas of Missouri. I am not certain if this is reaching the ground just yet, but a wintry mix is certainly expected in these areas, such as in Arkansas and even the western parts of Tennessee later on this afternoon. Farther south, this is just good old-fashioned rain, and I would say it is much-needed rain. We may even see some thunderstorms down in the southern areas of Louisiana. Now, let us move on and discuss the current watches, warnings, and advisories. We do have ongoing winter weather advisories, and if you recall, we mentioned this in last night's video. We anticipated that some of these special weather statements would likely be upgraded to winter weather advisories, and that is precisely what has happened. We have these for Oklahoma City, Norman, and all the way over to Tulsa. We will have to see if any are issued in Arkansas or perhaps areas of Tennessee today. But for right now, we just have special weather statements. This is for what is described as a wintry mix, which is expected this afternoon through late this evening. We will discuss the timing of that as we move forward. We also have some winter weather advisories in the Cumberland Plateau. There are some winter weather advisories in the western areas of North Carolina, as well as the northern areas of North Carolina, from the Triad into the Triangle region. A significant portion of Virginia also has winter weather advisories, including parts of West Virginia. This does include the cities of Richmond, Roanoke, and Lynchburg. I do hope this graphic is clear for you to see. For now, the advisory stops just south of the District of Columbia area. I could see some of these areas being upgraded to a winter storm warning, but we will have to continue to monitor the situation. I believe if an upgrade does occur, it will happen during the storm itself, but we will continue to assess the data. So, let us go over the evolution and the timeline of this winter storm. We will begin around midday today. We do have some winter weather starting to move into Arkansas. On the map, the blue color represents snow and the purple represents sleet. If you see some pink, that indicates freezing rain. So, we are going to see a wintry mix across parts of Arkansas beginning late this morning and really moving into the midday and early afternoon hours today. Let us continue to move this forecast forward. By the time we get to around 4 to 5 o'clock, the time frame is displayed at the top of the screen. Just subtract 1 hour if you are in the central time zone. We will have some winter weather moving into the Memphis area and points north, perhaps even Jonesboro. In fact, the model shows some plain, old-fashioned snow just north of Memphis. It indicates sleet in Memphis, but it could be a combination of everything. It might be entirely sleet, or it could be a mix of rain and sleet. But let us not get too focused on the precise details just yet. There are special weather statements in effect for a wintry mix later on this afternoon and into this evening. As we continue to move forward in time, let us shift our focus a little farther to the east. This is an area where the storm could perform stronger than expected, And in my professional opinion, this storm system has the potential to overachieve. We will get to about 7, 8 o'clock this evening, right around dinner time, and the model shows straightforward snow moving into Nashville. Even as far north as Bowling Green, Kentucky, and in Clarksville and Jackson, Tennessee, it is snowing. Murfreesboro, I hope I pronounced that correctly. For you all in Tennessee, you also have snow in the forecast. And as we continue to move this forward, we get into the later evening hours. This is 9, 10 o'clock. It is still snowing in Nashville. I am not certain if this is exactly how it will play out, but we could see a wintry mix as far south as areas below Nashville in the southern parts of Tennessee. And then we continue to move forward. Does it begin as a wintry mix in, say, Knoxville? You can see the Tennessee Valley quite clearly here, between the Cumberland Plateau and the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee. Could we get a brief wintry mix in Knoxville and the Tennessee Valley? Yes, absolutely. We will just have to watch closely, as this has become a situation where we need to observe it in real time. We will just have to see how everything unfolds. But this is showing plain snow moving into the southern areas of Kentucky. We have snow moving into parts of southwest Virginia. And we continue to move forward here, and we are starting to approach about midnight tonight. And this is indicating heavy snow. And look, the latest high-resolution model has this as snow in places like Johnson City, the Tri-Cities area, and region of Tennessee. So this is a bit of a new development. It appears it will be cold enough now to start as snow in these areas. And I know I have many followers from this particular area. So, let us hope this forecast is correct if you are a fan of winter weather. It is snowing in areas of eastern Kentucky and snowing in the northeastern parts of Tennessee. Any kind of winter weather is beginning to end in Nashville around midnight tonight. And then a fast-moving snowstorm begins to push into areas of Virginia and the surrounding states. And here it comes. And I am telling you, wherever that rain-snow line sets up, just to the north of it, you all are going to see very heavy, wet snow. But you will be very close to that rain-snow line. If you are to the south, it will switch to what we sometimes call a white rain, where you are right on that mix line, or it could just be plain rain. But this is heavy snow moving into Roanoke and Lynchburg, with moderate snow moving into Richmond. This is around 1 to 2 o'clock in the morning tonight. This is 2 o'clock in the morning. So, this system has trended much faster. If you were thinking this would move in during the morning rush hour in these areas, that is not the case. It is going to move in much earlier now, just after midnight. So, Beckley will be getting some snow. It is snowing just north of Hickory. This is just plain rain. In Charlotte and Greensboro, it starts as rain at first. But if this model is correct, we continue to move forward. And it begins to switch over to a wintry mix as we get to 3, 4, and 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. And then we start to switch to a period of snow. We may see sleet in Hickory, while in Danville it is all snow. Richmond and Petersburg as well. Could you start out with some snow in Norfolk, in the Hampton Roads area, and places like that? Absolutely. Look, you have a little bit of snow trying to move into the Tidewater region. It is snowing in a good portion of Virginia, where whatever is falling is snow, except for the far southeastern corner of the state. And you keep going here, if we can get this to advance, we start to get into, say, 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. The sun will be beginning to come up, and it is just snowing in Greensboro. It is snowing in Danville. Southwest Virginia is still seeing significant snow. You know, in Asheville and Boone, really the Boone and Banner Elk area, I think you are going to get, well, you have winter weather advisories for a good reason. You are going to get a solid snow to wintry mix type of situation. I think it could stay all snow there. When you get down here into Nashville, I just do not believe the high pressure from this cold air damming event is in a favorable position to bring any heavy winter weather from this. But we shall see. And listen, for Charlotte, Concord, and Salisbury, you all could, especially near Salisbury and definitely near Statesville, you could certainly start off as a wintry mix, but then it would eventually switch over to rain. And I could see that happening as far south as Charlotte, but I think 95% of this storm for you will be just good, old-fashioned cold rain. But we continue to follow the final stages of this storm. It could have some lingering energy behind it. So, this is a newer development. This is around 10 o'clock Friday morning. There are still some areas of light snow and wintry mix out here, but we will continue to sort out the bulk of the storm up here. There is some snow up here in Delaware and the District of Columbia area. And we keep this going, and it could taper off to some snow around Richmond and maybe even Salisbury up here in Maryland, closer to Delaware. As we start to move into early Friday afternoon, tomorrow afternoon, we can say now and then the storm comes to an end. So, are we going to get any activity up here in the New York City and New Jersey area? I think it is possible, but for now, it looks to be mainly dry up there. However, there is a possibility this storm could trend farther north over the next 12 to 24 hours. So we have to watch that. A lot of times, these systems do like to track farther north than what is being modeled. Now, as far as how much snow is expected, let us update this. This is for Arkansas. A touch of snow is possible as far as accumulation in the northwestern areas of the state. Fayetteville is forecast for 0.2 of an inch of snow. It could be snowing in these areas already, but we are not forecasting any accumulations in central Arkansas. But if you look at the latest high-resolution model run, it does show a touch of snow, a dusting east of Little Rock into the Memphis area. It actually projects 0.3 of an inch of snow in Memphis and in the eastern and northeastern sections of the state. And then we look at Kentucky. And then we look at Tennessee. A few tenths of an inch of snow is possible out here in these areas based on the National Weather Service forecast, but they are definitely not anticipating much snow in these areas. Just a dusting here and there, enough to make the ground white. But if you look at the high-resolution model run, and I want to show you this too, I want to compare it. It shows a band of snowfall accumulation right through the heart of Middle Tennessee, starting from Memphis and going up to Jackson. For Nashville, it shows 0.4 of an inch of snow. Even areas south of Nashville, between Columbia and Nashville, are showing an inch of snow in these blue-shaded regions. Cookeville is also looking at about an inch of snow. We do have winter weather advisories in effect for this area. And now, the latest data indicates about 0.8 of an inch of snow for Johnson City. The next high-resolution model run, which gives us a longer-range view, will begin in the next hour or so. We will be watching closely to see what that reveals. However, one thing I am noticing is a trend toward more winter weather in the Tri-Cities area of northeast Tennessee. For those who may not be familiar with the location, now, I do not want to guarantee this, because the official National Weather Service forecast is not calling for a significant amount in that area. It does suggest some dusting amounts. For Knoxville, we are looking at about 1/10 of an inch of snow, with a little bit of snow also expected in the Smoky Mountains. The models do not currently favor that area for heavy accumulation, but we will certainly keep a close eye on it. Now, let's move into the primary impact zone of this storm. I want to begin by showing you all, let me just check for a new update. Not yet, by showing you the Greenville-Spartanburg area, which covers southwestern North Carolina and surrounding communities. Here in Marion, we see 0.3 of an inch of snow. Burnsville is showing 0.4. Newland could receive an inch of snow. And Hickory, up toward Lenoir, is looking at a couple of tenths of an inch of snow. It is just enough to create a dusting, but I must tell you, these areas right here have the potential to see higher amounts than forecast. They certainly could. I will also show you a run from the high-resolution model for these areas. A small amount of ice is possible in that region, but I do not expect a great deal. I truly do not believe we will see enough freezing rain in any of these locations to cause any significant impacts. I truly do not. Now, let's take a look at the forecast for Raleigh. Durham, just to the north of Raleigh, is expecting about a 1/2 inch of snow. Henderson and Roxborough are also looking at a 1/2 inch of snow. Greensboro and Winston-Salem are forecast to receive a 1/2 inch as well, but please keep in mind, these are areas that could potentially see more than forecast. And regarding those freezing rain totals, I will show them to you. As you can see, the models are not indicating very much, so there is no need to expand this particular graphic. Next, let us turn our attention to Virginia. A couple of inches of snow is in the forecast. So, the forecasters have definitely increased these snowfall totals. This is the official National Weather Service forecast, which calls for a couple to a few inches of snow in these areas. For Roanoke and Blacksburg, anywhere from 2 to 3 inches of snow is possible in those regions. And there you have it. The forecast is now for 2 to 3 inches for Mount Airy as well. As you can see, this is an updated graphic. In fact, let me quickly check if another one has been released. No, not at this moment. So, this update actually expands some of these heavier snowfall totals further into northern North Carolina when compared to the previous graphic from the Raleigh office. So, these are certainly respectable snowfall totals. Now, if you are thinking that 1 to 2 inches of snow is not very much, I would ask you to remember that it is still early December. This event will be happening on a Friday, and with the holiday season upon us, it can be a welcome sight. I encourage you to enjoy it. If the forecast called for 1 to 2 inches of snow at my own home in early December, I would be quite pleased. We will leave it at that. Now, let us look at areas of eastern Virginia. The forecast is not calling for much in the Hampton Roads area, which includes the Norfolk region. However, as you move west of that area, from Richmond to Petersburg, 1 to 2 inches of snow is possible. And these areas also have the potential to see higher totals, so forecasters have indeed increased the snowfall amounts for this location. Then we move into the Tidewater region and the Delmarva Peninsula. A few tenths of an inch of snow is possible in these areas right here in southern Maryland. Now, this is enough to make the ground white. In my opinion, it would certainly be enough to put you in the holiday spirit. A small amount of freezing rain is also possible in this area, and I will show you that now. We are talking about just a few hundredths of an inch, but it should only amount to a light glaze. I do not believe that will be a significant issue at all. Now let us move north and refresh this graphic to see if there is any new information. There is not. A few tenths of an inch of snow is possible. As we get down near Fredericksburg, we see an inch. For Charlottesville, an inch and perhaps a little more. For the Washington and Baltimore areas, around a half inch of snow is possible and is in fact likely, according to the current forecast. This amount is enough to put a nice coating on the ground. Next, I will turn our attention a bit further north. For Delaware in general, the forecast calls for around a half inch of snow for the entire state, and the southern half of New Jersey could also see a touch of snow. Now, I do want to take a look at the high-resolution model. This is the high-resolution model forecast for snow. It is indicating more substantial totals. For instance, it is calling for a solid 2 to 2.5 inches in Hickory. And please look at this area right here, where North Carolina meets Southwest Virginia. This model is forecasting over a half foot of snow in this pink shaded area. For Roanoke, a good 3 inches. If any area is going to be upgraded to a winter storm warning, let's go back and examine this map. It would be this region right here. I also believe some winter weather advisories will be issued for these surrounding regions as well. So, if any location is going to exceed expectations and meet the criteria for a winter storm warning, it is most likely to be right here in Southwest Virginia and even the northwestern areas of North Carolina. Additionally, this model is forecasting 2 inches of snow in Richmond, with a small area of over 3 inches just south of Richmond. It shows about an inch in Charlottesville, so not a great deal there. The high-resolution model tends to keep this system further south, but it does project 1 to 2 inches of snow for the Tidewater region and parts of the Delmarva, including southern Maryland, and into areas of southern Delaware. It also indicates an inch or two of snow is possible in Johnson City. Now, let us examine the NAM model. The overall pattern is similar, but the precipitation is shifted farther to the north. As a result, this model only shows a tenth of an inch of snow for Hickory. Greensboro is forecast to receive only 7/10 of an inch of snow. So in this scenario, everything is shifted farther north, and that is a realistic possibility. I do want to take a moment to discuss a weather sounding. It is important to note that this system has trended faster. So, while most of you will be asleep, if you are thinking this will not begin until sunrise tomorrow, that is incorrect. For those of you who are winter weather enthusiasts and enjoy watching the beautiful, serene, nighttime snowfalls, this is for you. If you appreciate that quiet, middle-of-the-night ambiance when heavy snow is coming down and the world is asleep, this may be your moment. You may have seen videos of people looking out into the darkness while very large snowflakes are gently falling. Well, this is the exact scene that may unfold in Roanoke after midnight tonight, or right around midnight. We expect heavy snow to be moving in at approximately 1 o'clock in the morning. So, I have selected the atmospheric sounding for this location in Southwest Virginia. We will try not to get too technical, but the surface temperature, shown in red, is 28 degrees. Then you see the green line, which represents a 27-degree dew point. This means the dew point is very close to the air temperature at the surface, which indicates the air is very moist. This is different from a situation where you might have a dew point of 10 degrees and an air temperature of 28 degrees, where the atmosphere first has to saturate in the lower levels. In our case, the atmosphere is saturated all the way up to about 20, 30, and even 40,000 feet before some drier air is introduced. But when you see the green line this close to the red line, With the dew point nearly matching the temperature at the 500 millibar level about 18,000 feet up, it tells us the entire air column is supersaturated. This means the atmosphere is primed to release a great deal of snow, provided it is cold enough aloft. And it certainly is, because if you look at this blue line right here, this represents the 32-degree freezing line aloft. As you can see, this entire column, in terms of temperature, remains below that 32-degree line. Therefore, this precipitation is going to fall entirely as snow. There is a small layer of warmer air, what we call a warm nose, but it is not warm enough to cross the 32-degree mark and melt the snowflakes. If it were, this would fall as a wintry mix or even rain. It is cold enough through all levels of the atmosphere, and the column is supersaturated. Consequently, all the available moisture in the atmosphere will fall as a heavy, wet snow. This allows the snowflakes to clump together, creating those very large, beautiful snowflakes. It truly is going to be a picturesque snowfall. So please, enjoy it. I must admit, I am a little bit jealous. I just wanted to explain the science behind what could happen in certain areas, and how under these conditions, snowfall totals can often exceed the forecast. It is possible to see 2 inches of snow fall in a single hour. It happens frequently in these setups. Now, I would like to mention the time frame for early next week. This is a system I have been monitoring. And while the threat has diminished, as we move into Sunday morning, a good deal of moisture will still be present here in the southeast. At the same time, we have a clipper system diving down from the north. This will bring some moderate snow across parts of the Midwest. As it dives south, there is an attempt at some phasing between the two energy systems, and I do see a connection. However, we simply do not have enough cold air in place. This will result mainly in rain, shown here in green, across the southeast, with snow falling where it typically does in early December. But the main question is, as we move past this initial interaction, is there any further connection? The system turns into a quick-moving snowstorm up north on Monday morning, but for us, not really. We may see a little bit of backside snow from the northwest flow in the Appalachian Mountains, but nothing significant is expected. We are not seeing that more extreme GFS model run that appeared, not last night, but the night before. So that particular scenario is no longer on the table. Now, after we move past that system, we continue to see more energy moving across the country. Here comes another clipper system diving into the Midwest. This could bring more snow to that region as we head into Wednesday. Then, as we look toward Thursday of next week, the model does show a little bit of snow reaching as far south as the Smoky Mountains, the Central Appalachians here in West Virginia. After that, the forecast becomes less certain. As we get into next weekend, we will have to reassess the pattern. All right, now what about the latest European model? This particular view only goes out 144 hours, so we may need to switch our views shortly. But it shows a similar story. As we get deeper into the weekend, some moisture remains with us here in the deep south, and another clipper system approaches. This will likely bring more snow across the Midwest. It even shows some heavier snow in Iowa as we head into Sunday morning. It could be quite a festive day on Sunday across Chicago and other parts of the Midwest. Is there any connection for our area? The model does show some interaction. We see some moisture present and a little bit of snow in the mountains at the higher elevations, but for the most part, it looks to be just a cool rain. Following that, as we get into the middle of next week, another clipper system dives through the Great Lakes region. And this is as far out as this particular model view goes. Beyond that, we see another system preparing to dive in. We will switch back to the longer-range European model, and it does show a large trough diving in, which could bring some higher elevation snow with it. We will simply have to wait and see how that unfolds. I am certainly hoping it does, because I will be heading to the mountains on Wednesday night into Thursday. So, it would be quite nice to get a little bit of snow. We shall see if that comes to pass. After that, it is difficult to say. As I mentioned, once we look past this time next week, any forecast is quite uncertain. But if you examine the European ensemble model, you can see the clipper system diving in out of the Midwest. This is shown in 24-hour increments. Snowfall is possible, and this depicts snowfall in 24-hour periods as we move forward into Sunday. Then, as we get into Monday, you can see light signals across the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. Following that, we have another signal for a clipper system diving in. Then, we have a larger trough that could potentially dive in. This appears to be another aggressive clipper system. It is basically bringing snow to areas that have already been experiencing snowfall. And then as we begin to approach Friday, there is a signal for some northwest flow activity all the way down to the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee. But after that, it is truly hard to say. I know I keep repeating that, but there is really no point in looking too far out past the 7-day mark. This model, however, does extend all the way out to 240 hours. It shows the footprint of snow, which is 10 days out, by the way. It shows that footprint of snow is pretty much across the northern terrain of the country. This area right here is mainly from the system on its way over the next 24 to 48 hours. So there is no signal between now and next week for any kind of deep south snow, but I was never really anticipating any. I have been discussing at length how this is going to be a northern stream dominated pattern, and you can see it here. This is the smoothed out European ensemble model. This begins this coming Sunday. You can see there is some energy diving in here that could phase, but it does not appear that it will. Following that, perhaps there is some energy right here, but this looks to be mainly northern stream dominated. When I say that, I mean all of your energy is diving in from Canada. We have to watch if there is any energy that can get going and sort of develop down here, allowing for some sort of connection, but most of this energy is diving in from the north, and that continues to look to be the case moving forward. Then, as we get into late next week, we have a trough that attempts to dive in and suggests the idea of more energy diving south. However, I still do not believe this will phase with any southern stream energy and become some massive storm system. We could trend in that direction, but we are somewhat running out of I would not say we are running out of time, but we are entering a time frame where, in my opinion, the pattern must commit one way or the other. It does show some energy digging deep, which strongly suggests a rather aggressive clipper system diving south. Ultimately, that would result in northwest flow snow for the mountains, and then the trough would retreat back to the north. And that makes sense when you look at the overall pattern here. The blues indicate a trough of low pressure, while the yellows, the oranges, and the reds indicate ridging. So, as we are starting to get into the middle of next week, we have a trough over the central and eastern areas of the country. It appears to dig down once again. That is a signal right there for me as we are getting into next Thursday and Friday for a blast of potential Arctic air. It will be very cold air diving down once again around this time next week. When you see this kind of greenish color embedded within the blue, it means this trough is really digging deep. So, it could certainly bring a shot of cold air. Could there be energy associated with it? Absolutely. But that does not mean we will get a huge storm system. That system then dives in and scoots on out. Then we have this ridge that tries to build in around mid-month. There has been some talk about a mid-month warm-up. I think that is very possible. In fact, it is likely. I just do not think it is going to last long. And you can already see as we are getting into the week leading up to Christmas, well, I should say the last weekend before Christmas, the blues start to show up once again for the eastern United States. So, it simply does not look to last long, and the pattern does not support it lasting long. And if we look at temperatures compared to average, the blues and the greens represent below average temperatures. What you will see here as we are moving into next week is that in the eastern United States, we could have a brief warm-up, perhaps Wednesday into Thursday of next week across the south. Then there is a strong signal for another strong cold front late next work week, and that cold air takes back over the eastern United States. How long does that stay with us? We will have to see. But there's a pretty strong signal for a ridge flexing across the south-central United States. And you can see cold air building back in at the end of the model run, though. At the very end, you can see the blues return. So, I believe the next thing we are watching, after this winter storm on the way over the next 48 hours, is this next trough digging in around this time next week and what it could bring. That is going to be the next topic of discussion. Now, if we look at the Madden-Julian oscillation, and let me update this browser here and go back down to look at the European model. Yes, so this is the new information we have, and we have been discussing this extensively. Let me draw on this for a moment. Phases 6, 5, and 4, these are considered warm phases across most of the country. Phases 8, 1, and 2, these are cold phases that bring us more chances for winter weather. Phase 7 and Phase 3 are what we call transitional phases. We have just left Phase 7, and we are now in Phase 8. But just because we get into Phase 8, which I will mention is a very good phase for cold and winter weather chances in December, even for areas farther south, it does not mean the atmosphere instantly reacts. It does not mean it suddenly brings major winter storms all the way down to Mobile, Alabama. That is not what it means. There is normally a lag period. There is some debate on whether that is a few days or a couple of weeks. I think someone I read on Twitter last night said it well. We are in what you might call a fake Phase 8, because it has not fully translated to the surface yet, but I think that is about to change. So, these 3 points right here represent yesterday, which was December the 3rd. So, we are on December the 4th. We are between the 3 and the 5, you see? But it shows us remaining in Phase 8 for a long period of time. It could dip into what some call the circle of death. I know there has been conversation about that, and I call it the circle of confusion. It is a low-amplitude version of whatever phase we are in. This means it has a lower impact on the actual weather pattern. But let us not focus too much on that. We are in Phase 8. Let us see what happens. Do we get sort of held up in it? If we do, then it is inevitable the atmosphere will respond. Now, as for today's weather, I do want to mention the snow squalls across the Northeast. We have them ongoing right now, and it is going to be windy. A strong surge of Arctic air is going to move in. It is very cold for your family and friends west of this area. It is well below zero. We will speak on that in the north-central United States here in a moment, but we are going to have some wispy snow squalls across this area. It is not going to add up to a whole lot, but it is going to be brutally cold. And here are the predicted wind gust swaths from the National Weather Service for today. We could get some 30, 40, or even 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts with some of these snow squalls. So please be aware that we will more than likely see some snow squall warnings issued. Not much snow is expected from this. I will look at the snowfall forecast. Some areas could get a few inches of snow from this, but do not expect a great deal. Now we will move past the southeast, as we have already talked about it, and then we will move past the south-central United States, because we have already spoken on that. But I do want to start with the north-central United States. These are the current temperatures right now across areas of Iowa and Minnesota. It is 10 to 15 degrees below zero. This is not the feels-like temperature, this is the actual air temperature. It is brutally cold across these areas. I will also take a look at the upper Midwest, and it is just frigid. It feels like January. As for any significant weather, it is just brutally Arctic air. And any snow that does fall is just going to accumulate very easily. We have some snow flying around here in the northern sections of Minnesota. There is a little bit of lake effect snow off Lake Superior into the sections of the upper peninsula of Michigan. Then we have a clipper system diving in. This will add to the snow totals later tonight, and then by the time we get into tomorrow morning, light to moderate snow will be flying around embedded in this trough. It will be very cold, very dry snow that will just fly around. It is not going to be the kind of heavy, gripping snow that wet snow is. But as for conditions out west, we do have a new storm system we are trying to figure out. We have snow in the higher elevations and rain in the lower elevations. And as we start to move into overnight tonight, the northern Rockies will begin to get heavy snow. Then we have to see what happens with this system next. Temperatures are very, very cold. These are high temperatures, just brutally cold across the Midwest, points north and the interior of the Northeast. It is simply cold. We also have some cold air in the Southeast. Florida is enjoying temperatures in the 70s and 80s, and these are the temperatures out west. Alright, let's make this our timestamp, and let's do our Bible devotion. I am running low on time, but we cannot forget about our faith. This morning, we are in Romans, chapter 12, verses 19 through 21. To all you parents and grandparents, I know it is a busy morning getting everyone ready for school. Alright, it says, "Friends, do not avenge yourselves. Instead, leave room for God's wrath, because it is written, 'Vengeance belongs to me. I will repay,' says the Lord. But if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. For in so doing, you will be heaping fiery coals on his head. Do not be conquered by evil, but conquer evil with good." I think a lot of people have probably heard the phrase "heaping fiery coals over the head." I have always loved that imagery. But the message is, do not seek revenge against your enemy. God has that handled. Instead, show love to your enemy. This will often cause them to feel conviction for what they have done. Sometimes that conviction makes them more angry. Sometimes it does the opposite. Regardless, at least a small seed of shame is planted that could eventually drive them to change their ways. All right? And one way that I personally struggle with my enemies is through sarcasm. I can be very sarcastic, and I have talked to you folks about that before. If that sarcasm is not coming from the right place, and most of the time it is not, then it is probably not the right way to handle things, is it? So, for me personally, that is certainly an area where I am striving to improve. And the last thought I would like to leave you with today is this. I have truly learned to feel compassion for certain individuals, and it is not a condescending feeling, but a genuine sympathy for those who act in an unkind or hurtful manner. In my own experience, I have found that a significant majority of the time, I would say 95% of the time, that behavior stems from a difficult situation they are enduring, something from their past, or a challenge they are presently facing. It seems they simply do not have the tools to cope with it. The truth of the matter is that many people find it difficult to manage their own emotions and cannot pause in the moment to recognize that they are reacting. They do not realize they are treating another person poorly because of their own struggles. And whether a person's hardship is self-inflicted or not, their emotional response often causes pain to others. I always try to keep in mind that person is likely going through something terrible because it is very hard for me to believe that people are simply born with such a disposition. It is a perplexing thing to witness. You know, I manage a social media page, so I certainly encounter a great deal of negativity. I read many harsh comments, and they typically come from anonymous accounts with no picture, from people hiding behind a screen. I do not share this to focus on myself, but rather to say that I no longer allow it to upset me. I used to. I certainly did. Those comments used to agitate me, and I would spend my time typing out responses, but I no longer bother. On a rare occasion, I might offer a brief reply. But that is all I have on the matter. Thank you all so very much for tuning in. God bless you all. And as I mentioned in last night's video, I have been struggling to find a good rhythm with these updates lately. It has been a bit of a challenge. I am hopeful we can get back into a comfortable pace again soon, as I felt I was finding my footing at the beginning of this video as well. I am confident we will get that smooth flow back. Oftentimes, I will listen to a recording and realize it was not quite as disjointed as I felt at the time. I certainly hope this was easy for you to follow. I wish you all a wonderful day. We will be back to work on it again this evening.